name is Hale Yang. I'm a director at BlackRock. And I'm here to talk a little bit about currency hedged versus unhedged ETFs. I think a good place to start with this topic is the types of risk and return you take on as you start to invest as a Canadian investor outside of Canada. So for example, as you start to own US stocks, international stocks, US bonds, international bonds, your sources of risk and return start to change. Broadly speaking, once you start investing outside of Canada, your return is composed of two elements. One is the total return delivered by the security itself, so for example, the US stock's total return. And the second is the appreciation and depreciation of the foreign currency against the Canadian dollar. These two elements basically combine to deliver the return that you as a Canadian investor ultimately experience. So if we take an example of owning a US stock, if that stock is up 10% in a given year in US dollar terms, but the US dollar depreciates by 4% against the Canadian dollar, then your take-home return as a Canadian investor will be roughly 6%. Conversely, if the US dollar in that same example had appreciated by 4% against the Canadian dollar, your take-home return as a Canadian investor in that example would have been closer to 14%. The nice thing about ETFs is that today we offer in the industry a range of options across exposures available in both currency hedged and unhedged versions, allowing you as an investor to basically choose between whether you want both those sources of risk and return in your international investments, or if you'd rather sort of isolate just the security level and asset class level return, and mitigate to the extent possible those FX fluctuations. A natural question from here would be, well, how do I choose between hedged and unhedged ETFs? And that will really depend on your own personal views on risk and return and assumptions going forward. There's a lot of research to suggest that foreign currencies in a portfolio do offer some diversification benefits. And so if you take this view, then over the long run, you might assume that your risk-adjusted returns will be enhanced by allowing those foreign currency exposures into your portfolio and would opt for the unhedged ETF. On the other hand, you might take a tactical or even strategic view that a given foreign currency will over time depreciate against the Canadian dollar, in which case you would probably opt for the currency hedged ETF to hedge out that depreciation. One final example is an asset class example. We tend to see within fixed income investors favoring, when owning foreign fixed income, a currency hedged exposure, only because the FX volatility can sometimes offset or sort of overshadow the stability of the fixed income exposure. That's a quick overview of currency hedged versus unhedged ETFs. Thank you for listening.